I could tell I touched a nerve when I made that little snarky analytics comment. And speaking of touching a nerve, on this edition of Throwback Thursday, Tim Tebow is back in the NFL. Tight end Tim Tebow, I beg your pardon, has signed with the Jaguars, practicing today as part of OTAs. Press release, lengthy press release, jersey for sale. Get it while it's hot. Get it while you still can. By the way, quick side note. Gary, who does those first hour recaps? Is that Wyatt that pulls those together, Gary? Those first hour recaps? Matt Casey did it today? Who usually does it? Wyatt?
Yes.
Usually Matt. Well, shout out to Matt Casey, whoever. Shout out to Matt for taking the time to do it. I was just going to say, like, Michael, you know I have lots of problems with lots of things. But one thing I do enjoy, if I may say so, because it's us, I have come to enjoy those first hour recaps. It makes us look better than we are. To tell you the truth. It's like they always find the best stuff. Yeah. And even the best
and I'm all for that kind
of
of stuff.
That Brandon posts on social media. Yeah, you know, the things that Brandon posts on social media.
We are strict cover two corners. You know, we need help over the top all the time.
Couple of Rondé Barbers. No disrespect.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be on the left side the entire time. Don't move me around. That receiver goes in motion. I'm standing right here. I'm standing right here. Right. I ain't moving.
Right. But no, here's the thing about Tim Tebow. And it's crazy. It's 2021, and we're talking about Tim Tebow again. And you know, I said the other day we were on with Charles, man. Like I'm not even going to compare him to Colin Kaepernick because there is no comparison. And the other obvious distinction here is that look, Tim Tebow is transitioning and changing positions to tight end. They're not signing him to play quarterback, or at least we don't think they're signing him to play quarterback. He is a tight end. He is converting to tight end. Converting has a little double entendre there when talking about Tim Tebow that I didn't realize until I just said it. Anyway, the thing I wanted to say about Tim Tebow is this, and it's already a success. Before he's taken the field, before he's taken a snap, before he's even made the 53-man roster, the more I think about it, it's a brilliant move by Shad Khan, Trent Baalke, Urban Meyer, and the Jacksonville Jaguars because they have succeeded this offseason. They're 3 for 4. They're batting .750. Nobody bats 1,000. They're batting .750 in terms of national storylines that have brought attention to a couple of playoff runs, notwithstanding the most irrelevant franchise in the NFL. Followed closely by the Houston Texans. Yeah. Most irrelevant franchise, so irrelevant that, and I don't want Duval County coming from me, but so irrelevant that there have been talks for years about them moving to London, okay? But this offseason, they have succeeded. Like let's make no mistake about it. And we got off into a meaningless waste of time, hour-long, bloviating back and forth over who's trying to win in the NFL. But one thing I think we can both agree on, Michael, is while it is a game, it's first and foremost a business. It is a bottom-line business. And in order for you to sell tickets, in order for you to make money, you have to first be relevant. It would help if you won games, but even if you win games, that alone doesn't necessarily make you relevant or make you interesting. Well, enter Shad Khan and the Jacksonville Jaguars this offseason, who after purging the roster, they go and get as high-profile a coach as there has been in college football in the last, 20, 30 years in Urban Meyer? So he gets Urban Meyer to come out of the booth, come back to the state of Florida, where he really made his name, no disrespect to the Ohio State University, but
that's right.
After Utah, after Bowling Green and after Utah, it started at the University of Florida. For Urban Meyer. So you bring Urban Meyer home, all right, to North Florida. Then you draft maybe the face of college football for the last couple of years, maybe one of the faces of college football from nearby South Carolina, Clemson, South Carolina, and Trevor Lawrence to be the new face of your franchise. And by the way, you get running back, wide receiver Travis Etienne in the first round as well from Clemson. The miss was the strength coach that they hired, and thankfully Urban realized this ain't college football and this ain't gonna fly. But now you come back and you get Tim Tebow. You bring home Jacksonville native Tim Tebow. And even right now on this little show, but I'm sure it's happening nationally. I don't watch the national shows. I only pay attention to what we're doing. But right now, the Jacksonville Jaguars are being discussed. How they're being discussed, why they're being discussed, is irrelevant. That they're being discussed is a win. We'll see how many games they actually win. We'll see if Tim Tebow helps them win any of those games. But it is a win to have Tim Tebow, who still has name value, if nowhere else in Florida, in Jacksonville, having him on the roster and this experiment to see if he can actually be a tight end. I doubt it, but that's beside the point. This is a win in the box office. This is a win for the bean counters. This is a win for the bottom line business, that is, how do we get people to actually pay attention to the Jacksonville Jaguars short of actually winning games? In the meantime, sign Tim Tebow. Mission accomplished, right?
Okay, well, look, sure, it's a win for the box office. Did the box office need it? Did the conversation need it? You mentioned a couple of things. They hired Urban Meyer. They had the number one pick in the draft. They drafted Trevor Lawrence, the unanimous best player in college football, one of the best prospects to come out of football in a decade, come out of college football in a decade. Did they need the element of Tim Tebow that you're describing? I would say they didn't necessarily need it. And if what we're doing across the NFL is giving jobs to hometown heroes, in every NFL market, I could envision a college player saying, hey, I'm from here. I haven't played in 8 or 9 years. How about giving a brother a shot? Look, it's not personal against Tim Tebow. I actually like Tim Tebow quite a lot.
That's not the same thing, though. Sorry, if I may interject real quick. That's not the same thing. This isn't.
Of course you can.
Well, number one.
What do you mean if you may interject? Ain't no debate rules here. Interject.
Well, no.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no. Just because I just pounded the rock, and so I'm taking it right back. But I don't want to. I got to take exception though.
Shots.
I know.
Go ahead.
I got to take exception though with saying any local hometown hero can raise his hand and say, hey, give me a shot on a 90-man roster. It's Urban. It's a perfect storm. It's a convergence of Urban Meyer in Jacksonville signing his former Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. Like, I don't think it works everywhere. I think, like, Tim Tebow was never going to see a field again but for Urban Meyer in Jacksonville. If Urban Meyer were coaching the Lions, they don't do this. I don't believe they do this.
Right. But it's Urban Meyer coaching Jacksonville that makes it
It's Urban Meyer in Florida, yes. Yeah.
As I said.
It's different. And it's Tim Tebow. It's Tim Tebow. Like, I've got nothing. He's still relevant, miraculously.
Yeah. I've got nothing against Jacksonville tight end Tim Tebow. I'll say it with a little less sarcasm this time. We were talking with Charles. I really got fired up. It really bothers. It bothered and continues to bother me. So I'll say it this way. NFL teams like Jacksonville, just keep it a buck with us. You hired Tim Tebow after a 9-year NFL absence. Think about that. He was out of football. He was out of the NFL for 9 years. And now you hired him to play a different position. Just be honest with us. You hire, most NFL teams like this, they hire who they want to. Whether the person has been away for 3 years, 4 years, or 9. You hire who you want to. And
general manager, head coach. Yes.
Don't insult us. Don't insult us by suggesting that, I'm not even going to say his name, but a certain player is not in the league because of some type of erosion of skills, or we're not sure about his commitment. No, just say, look, we didn't sign him because, hey, I don't like what he did, or he's a distraction, or whatever it is. Because I'll tell you this, most teams who would hire the other guy, most teams who would hire him, Kaepernick, they get a boost. they'd have some people saying, "I'll never support this team again,"
Yeah.
but they'd also get some people saying, "Oh, I'm about it."
Oh yeah.
Now
it
I'm
reminds
interested.
me. It reminds me when
And the
Roger Goodell said.
conversation?
When Roger Goodell said.
Oh, the conversation would be there.
It reminds me when Roger Goodell once said, "Our fans want our players to stand." I'm like, "What fans? Like, who are you talking about?" You know what I mean? We knew who he was talking about, but he wasn't talking about all fans. There's a lot of fans who didn't care and supported, obviously, what the players were kneeling for. So here's the thing, Michael, and I guess it sounds like you need closure, and I'm not going to assume anybody saw our conversation the other day, so at the risk of being repetitive, they're not insulting our intelligence, because I don't even think they're trying to explain it at this point, because there is no way to explain how, when you've come around as a league to branding the movement for social justice and against police brutality, branding and profiting off that movement that Colin Kaepernick started, there is no explanation. There is no legitimate explanation, and for me, there isn't one needed as to why Colin Kaepernick is not employed in said league. It's obvious, and it's been obvious. The only difference, and the only reason that Colin Kaepernick's name even came up in the aftermath of this Tim Tebow signing was two reasons. One, because they both have kneeling in common, so it was easy. It was low-hanging fruit. It was an easy meme to create. Two, is that Tim Tebow is polarizing, and Tim Tebow it gets the people going, which goes back to my point. That's the whole point of this exercise, is to see, is not like the chances of Tim Tebow actually cutting it at tight end are much closer to none than slim, okay?
Right.
But it doesn't matter, because he's drawing attention to a franchise that, but for the first overall pick, people ain't really checking for Jacksonville like that, okay? So that's the only reason Colin Kaepernick's name came up. It also, here's another difference. Tim Tebow is actually changing positions. Colin Kaepernick is even more of an insult if somebody were to ask Colin Kaepernick to change positions. So
right.
It's not the same. It is the same league, but it is the same sport, but they ain't the same ballpark. Okay, so there's that. But
let me point out to you.
If we were to, I'll say this last thing. If we were to sit here and make this a meritocracy and point out all the quarterbacks over the last however many years it's been since Kaepernick's been blackballed, or whiteballed if you prefer. If we were to look at all the quarterbacks whose resume and talent would have them behind Colin Kaepernick, starter or backup, we'd be here all day. Like that ship sailed years ago. So just because Tim Tebow signed, it's like, well, I'm not trying to disrespect you when I say this, but like, well, duh. Like, we know why Colin Kaepernick doesn't have a job.
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with Tim Tebow.
I just want to point out, I don't need closure. I want acknowledgement. I just want acknowledgement. I would respect it if most general managers, coaches, and owners came out, NFL owners came out and said, you know what, I'm a hypocrite. I do the things that I rail against. I have double standards. I take the moral high ground, even though I shouldn't. I support who I want to support, and then I change the game and move the goalpost when something happens that doesn't suit the agenda that I have. That's all. Hey, good. Because you know what I'd say? I'd say, join the club, because I always call myself a hypocrite. Yeah, but don't sit here. What I really am bothered by, whether it's in the NFL or whether it's in a political party, is when those who lecture are the ones who are doing the same dirt that they're lecturing about. You're for this ideal, but you don't practice what you preach. So just be honest, and let's just keep it moving. But don't sit here and tell people,
I love you, brother.
Don't
I love you so much.
Don't try to intellectualize it. Like, well, I think after Tim Tebow, Colin Kaepernick, after being out of the game for 3 or 4 years, I don't know if his weight is held up, his footwork was all messed up, his mechanics were all.
But that's what I'm saying. Who's peddling that? That's what they tried to peddle before Black Lives all of a sudden started to matter to the NFL last summer.
Yeah.
You know, like I haven't seen anybody try to peddle that crap since the very beginning.
Now it's not.
You know what I mean? But I love you. I love you. And this gonna sound condescending. This gonna sound mad condescending.
Go ahead.
If I were in your living room right now, I would pat you on the head lovingly. I would pat you on the head lovingly right now and be like, "Po thing, you want these people to actually acknowledge their hypocrisy?
Don't touch my head.
Say, bruh, they won't acknowledge that January 6th was an insurrection. They won't acknowledge that January 6th was an insurrection. Okay? They won't acknowledge that this country was built on the backs of slaves and on stolen land.